Commander Zethor stood at the front of the training hall, his forearms crossed behind his back. The morning light from the station's artificial sun streamed through the tall windows. Before him sat 40 young cadets from a dozen different species. Their faces showed eagerness and confidence. They had no idea what war really meant. Zethor had been a soldier for 30 cycles. He had fought in 7 major campaigns across the galaxy. His chest carried the scars and medals to prove it. Now, the coalition military wanted him to train the next generation. Some days he wondered if that was a reward or a punishment. Today we discuss combat psychology, he began, his voice deep and steady. Understanding how different species react under pressure can save your life. A young Vraxian cadet raised her hand. Her name was Tilren, fresh from the academy with perfect scores. Commander, I have a question about the human combat doctrine. Zethor felt his skin plates tighten. He had been avoiding this topic for weeks. What is your question, cadet? Why do humans have separate training protocols? Why can't they follow standard coalition procedures like everyone else? The room fell silent. Every cadet leaned forward. Humans had joined the coalition only 20 years ago, and they remained a mystery to most of the galaxy. They were small compared to species like the Vraxians or the Krell. They had no natural armor, no claws, no venom. Yet every military officer spoke about them with a strange mixture of respect and fear. Zethor walked to the window. Outside, he could see the training grounds where mixed-species units practiced formations. A group of human soldiers jogged past, their pace steady and relentless. They had been running for over an hour. Most other species would have stopped 30 minutes ago. Humans are different, Zethor said quietly. Not because they are stronger or faster. They are not. Most species in this room could defeat a human in single combat. Then why the special treatment? Another cadet asked. Zethor turned to face them. His eyes, dark and ancient, scanned the young faces. Because humans do not fight like us. They do not think like us. And they certainly do not stop like us. Tilren's translator chip hummed as she processed his words. I don't understand, Commander. No, Zethor said, you do not. But you need to. All of you need to understand what humans are before you serve beside them. He moved back to his desk and sat on its edge. I am going to tell you stories. Real stories from my service. Things I saw with my own eyes when I fought alongside human soldiers. The cadets exchanged glances. This was not the lecture they expected. These stories will disturb you, Zethor continued. They disturbed me. Some of them still give me nightmares. But you will hear them because one day you might find yourself in a battle with humans at your side, and on that day you need to know what they are capable of. A Krell cadet, all muscle and pride, spoke up. With respect, Commander, humans are small, weak. What could they possibly do that would frighten veteran soldiers like us? Zethor's expression did not change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. That is exactly what I thought, cadet. 20 years ago, I stood where you sit now. I had never met a human. I had only heard rumors, strange tales from the edge colonies about these pink-skinned creatures from a planet called Earth. He stood and began to pace, his clawed feet clicking on the metal floor. The coalition had just made contact with humanity. We thought we understood them. We studied their biology, their history, their culture. We saw a species that spent 10,000 years fighting itself, world wars, nuclear weapons, genocide. We thought they were barbaric, dangerous. We were right to think they were dangerous, Zethor said. But we were wrong about everything else. The commander activated a holographic display. It showed a frozen moon, gray and lifeless. This is Crater 7. 20 years ago, Coalition forces fought the Seekers there. It was supposed to be a simple operation. Secure the mining facilities, hold the position until reinforcements arrived. The image zoomed in to show a small outpost surrounded by ice and rock. I was a junior officer then. My unit was assigned to work with a human squad. It was the first time any of us had seen humans in person. Zethor's voice grew distant, lost in memory. Their leader was Sergeant Ben Carter. He was short by our standards, maybe came up to my chest. No armor plating, no natural weapons. He smiled when we met and held out his hand. I did not understand the gesture then. Later, I learned it was how humans greet friends. They offer their weapon hand empty and open, a sign of trust. Zethor looked down at his own hands. Ben Carter had no idea that in 3 weeks he would show me something that would change how I saw the entire universe. The cadets sat motionless, completely absorbed. The Seekers hit us harder than intelligence predicted. Our supply lines got cut. Communications went dark. We were trapped on that frozen rock with dwindling food, limited ammunition, and no hope of quick rescue. Zethor's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. That is when I learned what humans really are. He looked at each cadet in turn. That is when I learned to be afraid. The temperature on Crater 7 never rose above freezing. Even inside the outpost, their breath formed clouds in the air. Zethor remembered how the cold seeped into his bones, making every movement painful. His species came from a warm world. Cold was an enemy they had never evolved to fight. The humans wore the same standard issue gear as everyone else. They should have suffered more. Their homeworld was temperate, their bodies even more vulnerable to extreme temperatures than most coalition species. But Sergeant Ben Carter and his squad moved through the ice like they belonged there. Day 14, Zethor continued his story. We had been on half rations for a week. The Seekers had us surrounded, and every attempt to break through failed. Our supplies were nearly gone. He remembered the meeting in the command center, officers from 6 different species, all looking at the same terrible numbers. Food for 3 more days. Ammunition for maybe 1 more serious fight. Medical supplies exhausted. The Krell commander wanted to surrender, Zethor said. It made sense. Under coalition law, the Seekers had to treat prisoners fairly. We would survive. Most of us, anyway. But then Ben Carter spoke up. The human sergeant had been quiet through most of the meeting. Now he stood, his face calm, but his eyes hard. We don't surrender, Carter said simply. The Krell commander stared at him. Look at the numbers, human. We cannot win. Doesn't matter, Carter replied. We hold this position. That's the mission. Zethor had thought the human was being foolish. Brave, perhaps, but foolish. Courage meant nothing against mathematics and starvation. The vote was cast, Zethor told his cadets. Most species agreed to surrender, but coalition rules said if any unit refused, they could continue fighting. The humans refused. What happened next still amazed Zethor, even after 20 years. The human squad had rations for 4 more days. They split their food with the other soldiers. Not all of it, but enough to keep everyone alive a bit longer. Corporal Amy Sullivan, the human medic, took inventory of every medicine, every bandage, every painkiller. She came to me on day 16, Zethor remembered. I had taken shrapnel to my leg during a Seeker probe attack. Infection was setting in. She had antibiotics, but not enough for everyone who needed them. Amy Sullivan had looked at his wound with professional eyes. Then she took out a bottle of something clear. This is going to hurt, she said. A lot. It was pure alcohol, meant for sterilizing equipment. She poured it directly into his wound. Zethor had fought in wars, taken heavy fire, been stabbed and shot. Nothing prepared him for that pain. He screamed. Amy held him down with strength that should not have been possible from someone her size. I know, she said quietly. I know it hurts, but you will survive this. Just breathe through it. She had no anesthesia left, no pain medication, just alcohol and bandages and her own steady hands. She cleaned the wound, stitched it shut, and bandaged it tight. "You will live," she told him. Then she moved to the next patient. Zethor watched her work through the night. She performed 3 surgeries with soldiers fully conscious. They screamed and begged her to stop. She never did. And the humans in the room, they held their comrades down, whispering to them in their strange language, keeping them still. "I asked Ben Carter how they did it," Zethor said to his cadets. "How they endured such pain without passing out. He told me something I will never forget." The sergeant had looked at him with tired eyes. "Humans are persistence hunters, Commander. Back on Earth, our ancestors ran prey to death. We are not the fastest. We are not the strongest. But we do not stop. Ever. Pain is just information. You can choose what to do with it." Day 20 came. Other species were barely moving. The cold, the hunger, the stress had broken them. They lay in their bunks, conserving energy, waiting for the end. The humans were still running patrol routes. Private Kyle Chen was 19 years old. It was his first deployment. On day 23, a seeker sniper hit him during a supply run. The shot shattered his leg below the knee. 2 human soldiers pulled him back to cover. Kyle was screaming, calling for his mother. Amy Sullivan got to him fast. "I cannot save the leg," she said. "Not here. Not with what we have." Kyle went pale, but then he nodded. "Do what you have to do." They strapped him down. Amy Sullivan had no surgical tools left except a knife and a laser cutter. No anesthesia. Nothing for the pain. Zethor had to leave the room. But he heard Kyle's screams echo through the entire outpost. They lasted for 40 minutes. When it was over, Kyle Chen lay on a cot with a stump where his leg had been. His face was gray from shock, but he was alive. The next morning, Kyle was at his post. He could not walk, so he crawled. He took position by a window with his rifle and stood watch. "I asked him why," Zethor said softly. "Why not rest? Why push himself when he had given so much already?" Kyle had looked at him with eyes that seemed 100 years old. "Because my squad needs me, Commander. Because we hold the line." Day 34 came. Relief forces finally broke through the Seeker blockade. When they arrived, they found the outpost still standing. Every non-human soldier was barely alive, unable to fight. The human squad was at their posts, weapons ready, eyes alert. Ben Carter saluted the rescue commander with a steady hand. "Glad you could make it, sir. We were starting to run low on coffee." It was a joke. Humans made jokes about everything, even death. Zethor finished his story. The medical teams could not believe what they found. The humans were suffering from malnutrition, hypothermia, and exhaustion. By every medical standard, they should have been incapacitated, but they were still combat ready. The training hall was silent. "That is when I understood," Zethor said. "Humans do not stop. Not when they are tired. Not when they are hurt. Not when every logical reason says they should quit. They simply do not have that response in their biology." He looked at Till Wren. "That is why they need special protocols, Cadet. Because if you train humans like other species, they will push until they break, and they will not tell you they are breaking. They will smile and say they are fine, and then they will die at their post." The cadets sat in stunned silence. Zethor gave them a moment to process what they had heard. Some looked disturbed. Others seemed skeptical. Till Wren raised her hand again. "Commander, that story shows humans are tough, resilient. But why would that be frightening?" Zethor's expression darkened. "Because I have not told you the worst part yet." He activated another holographic display. This one showed a massive ring-shaped structure floating in space, Themis Station, a trade hub near the border territories. Thousands of beings lived there, families from dozens of species. 5 years after Crater 7, I was assigned to Coalition security. We got a distress call from Themis Station. Raiders had taken control. They were holding hostages. Zethor remembered the briefing. Standard procedure was negotiation. Raiders wanted money or supplies, usually. You talked, you made a deal, everyone walked away alive. The Coalition had refined this process over centuries. It worked. The station security chief was a human named Lisa Grant. She had transferred there after retiring from Earth's military. Most of the security team was local, but she had 2 human officers under her command. Danny Brooks was her second. The holoscreen showed personnel files. Lisa Grant looked professional in her uniform photo. Smile lines around her eyes. The kind of face that had seen life and learned to be gentle with it. The raiders were Skolax, nasty species, aggressive, but they followed the rules of engagement. They knew how the game worked. Zethor's voice grew tight. Until they did not. The Coalition negotiator had made contact. The raiders demanded a transport ship and safe passage. Standard request. The negotiator was working on the details when the raiders sent a message. They killed 6 hostages, shot them in the head, and ejected the bodies into space. 2 of them were children. They said it was to show they were serious, Zethor continued. To speed up negotiations. He remembered watching the security feeds. Lisa Grant had been standing in the command center, coordinating with Coalition forces. When the news came through, her face went blank, completely empty. Then something changed in her eyes. Zethor had seen many predators in his life. His own species were hunters once. But what he saw in Lisa Grant's eyes that moment was something else entirely. Something primal and absolutely terrifying. She turned to Danny Brooks and said 5 words. "Stand down Coalition protocols now." The Coalition commander objected immediately. They had rules, procedures. You did not just abandon them because negotiations got rough. Lisa looked at him. "You want to follow your protocols? Fine, stay here. But my team is going in." Danny Brooks was already moving, pulling up station schematics. 3 other human officers appeared. Zethor learned later they were off-duty, not even part of the security team. They had heard what happened. They came anyway. "Danny said something I will never forget," Zethor told his cadets. He looked at the Coalition commander and smiled. Not a happy smile. Something cold. He said, "We are going to show you why Earth had 10,000 years of warfare before we reached the stars." The humans armed themselves. They did not take standard security equipment. They broke into the weapons locker and took military-grade gear, shotguns, breaching charges, combat knives. The Coalition commander threatened to arrest them, Zethor said. Lisa Grant told him to try. Zethor had volunteered to go with them, not because he agreed with their plan. Because he thought he might be able to keep them from doing something stupid. He was wrong. The humans moved through the station like ghosts, silent, fast. They did not follow normal room-clearing procedures. They moved with absolute certainty, like they had done this 1,000 times before. The first raider they found died before he could raise his weapon. Danny Brooks shot him twice in the chest. No warning, no hesitation. "That is when I understood," Zethor said. "They were not trying to arrest the raiders, they were hunting them." The humans cleared 3 decks in 20 minutes. Every raider they found was killed. No prisoners, no mercy. Lisa Grant moved with mechanical efficiency, her face still blank, her hands steady. They found a group of raiders holding more hostages in the station's dining area. Coalition procedure said to establish communication, negotiate, find a peaceful solution. Lisa Grant threw in a flashbang and charged through the door. The fight lasted 30 seconds. When the smoke cleared, every raider was dead. The hostages were untouched. One hostage was a human woman named Nicole Palmer. She worked as an engineer on the station. The raiders had killed her daughter in the first group of executions. Nicole looked at Lisa Grant. Then she picked up a raider's weapon. "Where are the rest?" Nicole asked. Lisa did not argue, she just pointed. Now there were 6 humans hunting through the station. "I tried to stop them," Zethor admitted to his cadets. "I told them this was wrong. We were supposed to be better than the raiders. We did not execute prisoners." Lisa Grant turned to look at him. Her voice was very quiet when she spoke. "They killed children, Commander. They do not get the mercy of our laws. They get the justice of our rage." The humans found the remaining raiders in the cargo bay. 15 of them armed and barricaded. A standard siege situation. Should have taken hours to resolve safely. The humans had it done in 8 minutes. Zethor stayed back, coordinating with coalition forces. He watched on security cameras. The humans did not use standard tactics. They used terror. They cut the lights, sealed the exits, and then they went in. The raiders were experienced fighters, but they had never faced anything like humans before. The humans used the darkness like a weapon, used the station's own structure against them. They moved wrong, too fast or too slow, appearing where they should not be. The raiders started shooting at shadows, at sounds, at each other. When the lights came back on, it was over. 14 raiders dead, Zethor said. 1 survivor. He was begging to be taken into custody by coalition forces, begging not to be left with the humans. The coalition commander arrived with security forces. He found Lisa Grant and her team standing in the cargo bay covered in blood. The human engineer, Nicole, was crying. But she was still holding her weapon. The commander started to arrest them, to charge them with excessive force. Zethor paused. Then he saw their faces, and he understood what I had learned. The humans were not soldiers in that moment. They were not security officers. They were something older, something that existed before civilization taught them to be gentle. "Humans have rules," Zethor explained to his cadets. "They have laws and morals and ethics. They try very hard to follow them. But underneath all of that is something wild, something dangerous. And if you push them far enough, if you hurt what they love, that thing comes out." He looked at each cadet in turn. The charges were dropped. Officially, the raiders died in the firefight. Everyone agreed not to examine it too closely. Zethor's voice was hard. But I learned something important that day. Never harm what a human loves, because they do not have a limit to their retaliation. They will burn down the universe to make you pay. The training hall had grown very quiet. Some of the cadets looked uncomfortable. Others seemed angry. Tilren spoke up, her voice uncertain. "Commander, these stories make humans sound like monsters." Zethor nodded slowly. "Yes, they can be, but that is only half of the truth." He dimmed the lights and brought up a new hologram. A green and blue planet, beautiful from orbit. "This is New Harmony, a colony world, mixed species population, 20,000 souls, half of them children." He remembered this mission clearly. It still visited him in dreams. 12 years ago, a war fleet appeared at the edge of the system, the Kresh Empire expanding their territory. They gave New Harmony 24 hours to evacuate or be destroyed. The coalition sent every available ship, but they were too far away. The evacuation would take 6 hours minimum. The Kresh fleet would arrive in 2. I was commanding a battle group 3 systems away. We were the closest coalition force. We ran our engines past safety limits trying to get there in time. Zethor's voice cracked slightly. We did not make it. 3 human ships were in orbit around New Harmony. Destroyer vessels, small and outdated. Their commander was Ryan Scott, a merchant captain who had been conscripted when the war started. Not a career officer, just a civilian who knew how to fly. The Coalition Admiralty sent orders. Pull back. Save the ships. The colony could not be defended. Ryan Scott's response came back immediately. Negative. We are human. We hold the line. I was monitoring communications, Zethor said. I heard everything. The Coalition admiral tried to reason with him. 3 destroyers against a war fleet? It was suicide. Meaningless death. Ryan Scott would save no one by dying. But Ryan's response was simple. Every minute we buy them is another 100 children on evacuation ships. We will buy them every second we can. The transmission cut off. The human ships moved to intercept. Zethor pulled up the tactical data. His cadets could see the numbers. 30 Kresh warships, 3 human destroyers, no shields, limited ammunition, engines already stressed from system patrol. It should have been over in minutes, Zethor said. It lasted an hour and 47 minutes. The human ships did not try to win. They knew they could not. They tried to delay, to annoy, to be such a frustrating obstacle that the Kresh wasted time destroying them. Lieutenant Kate Morgan commanded the fighter squadron, 12 small craft against a fleet. She made 47 attack runs. 47 times she flew through hostile fire, struck at enemy ships, and somehow survived to make another pass. Her fighter was held together with emergency patches and prayer, Zethor said. The cockpit was venting atmosphere. She should have returned to her carrier. Instead, she kept flying. One of her pilots was killed, then another. She kept ordering the rest to fall back. They refused. All of them, every single pilot, refused her direct order to retreat. Because they were human, Zethor explained, and humans do not leave their people behind. The Kresh focused fire on Ryan Scott's destroyer. It was the command ship. Kill it, and the defense would collapse. They poured everything into it. Missiles, energy weapons, kinetic rounds. The human ship started breaking apart. Ryan Scott sent one last transmission to the colony. Tell them we stood. Tell them we did not run. Then his ship exploded, but it did not stop fighting. Ensign Sam Hayes commanded one of the other destroyers. He was 23 years old. His ship was already crippled, engines failing, weapons depleted. When he saw Ryan's ship die, he did something that made no tactical sense whatsoever. He aimed his destroyer at the largest Kresh carrier and pushed his engines to full power. I watched it happen, Zethor told his cadets. The Kresh tried to shoot him down, but a ship full of holes, held together by failing systems, is hard to target. It does not move like it should. Sensors cannot get a clean lock. Sam Hayes turned his destroyer into a missile. He aimed for the carrier's engine core and hit it perfectly. Both ships exploded in a fireball that lit up the entire system. The blast wave damaged 3 other Kresh vessels. The fleet formation broke apart in confusion. Kate Morgan saw her chance. She rallied her remaining fighters, 6 battered craft that had no business still flying. They hit the disrupted fleet with everything they had left. They were flies attacking giants, Zethor said, but they were very angry flies. The 3rd human destroyer, damaged beyond repair, positioned itself between the Kresh fleet and the evacuation ships. Its captain, a woman named Maya Stone, sent a message to the colony. Keep loading, we will buy you time. Her ship could barely move. Its weapons were offline, but it sat there, a broken shield, forcing the Kresh to go around it or waste time destroying it. They chose to destroy it. It took them 18 minutes. Maya Stone kept her crew at their stations until the last possible moment. Then she ordered them to the escape pods. Most of them made it off. Maya stayed on the bridge. She manually piloted the dying ship, using her last few minutes to drift in the most annoying possible position. When the ship finally exploded, the last evacuation transport was clearing the gravity well. We arrived 3 minutes later, Zethor said quietly. We found the wreckage, 3 human ships, completely destroyed, 32 escape pods, 107 survivors out of crews totaling 400. The cadets were silent. We found the data logs. Every human on those ships knew they were going to die. The communications between vessels, between officers and crew, they all knew. Zethor activated a hologram. audio files, translated to standard coalition language. Ryan Scott's voice, calm and steady. This is a good death. Protecting people who cannot protect themselves. There is honor in this. Kate Morgan, her voice shaking but determined. If we are going to die today, let us die buying time for children to live. Sam Hayes, so young, trying to sound brave. My mom always said, do something that matters. I think this matters. Maya Stone, laughing despite everything. Well, this is going to make one hell of a story. Too bad we will not be around to tell it. They joked, Zethor said, his voice thick with emotion. They were flying to their deaths, and they joked with each other, told stories, talked about home, about the people they loved, about what they hoped the universe would remember about them. He looked at his cadets. The colony survived. All 20,000 made it to safety, because 3 human ships decided that protecting strangers was worth dying for. Tilren's voice was barely a whisper. Why? They did not know those people. They had no obligation. That is what I asked, Zethor said. I spoke with the survivors, asked them why they stayed when they knew it was hopeless. One survivor, a young human engineer, had looked at him with confusion, like the question itself made no sense. Because someone had to, the engineer said. Because there were children down there. Because we are human, and that means something. It means when others run, we stand. When others hide, we fight. When others give up, we hold the line. Zethor turned off the hologram. Humans are terrifying in war, but not because they are cruel. They terrify me because they do not value their own lives above others. They will die for you. They will die for strangers. They will throw themselves into fire if it means someone else might live. He let that sink in. And that kind of sacrifice, that willing embrace of death for others, that is the most frightening thing I have ever seen, because it means you cannot break them. You cannot make them stop. They will always find a reason to keep fighting, even when that reason is just buying one more second for someone else to escape. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The training hall felt smaller somehow, the air heavier. Zethor watched his cadets process what they had heard. Some looked thoughtful, others seemed troubled. Tilren sat with her head down, thinking hard. Finally, she looked up. Commander, those stories are about heroes, special warriors, elite soldiers who did incredible things. No, Zethor said firmly. That is where you are wrong. He pulled up personnel files on the hologram. Ben Carter's face appeared, smiling in a casual photo. Sergeant Ben Carter worked in a factory before the war. He assembled engine parts for transport ships. No military background, no special training before he enlisted. Another file. Lisa Grant, younger, wearing civilian clothes. Lisa Grant was a school teacher on Earth. She taught history to children. She joined the military later, but she was not special forces, just regular security. More faces appeared. Ryan Scott in a merchant uniform. Kate Morgan standing next to a civilian transport. Sam Hayes at a graduation ceremony. These were ordinary humans, Zethor said. Factory workers, teachers, cargo haulers, students. They were not trained from birth to be warriors. They were just people who answered a call when their species needed them. He looked at each cadet. And that is the terrifying truth. Those stories I told you, that is what all humans become in war. Not just the elite, not just the special ones, all of them. A Krell cadet raised his hand, his voice uncertain. How is that possible? How can an entire species be like this? Zethor sat on the edge of his desk. I asked human scientists that same question. They explained it to me. Earth was not a kind world. It threw everything at humanity. Ice ages, predators, diseases, disasters. 1,000 times humans should have gone extinct. He activated a hologram of Earth, rotating slowly. But they did not. Every time their planet tried to kill them, they survived. They learned. They adapted. Over millions of years, Earth shaped them into persistence hunters, creatures that do not stop, that cannot stop. Their bodies create chemicals that let them ignore pain, Zethor continued. They can enter mental states where fear disappears. They form bonds with their pack that override self-preservation instincts. They are biologically designed to keep going when everything says they should quit. Tilren spoke up. But that is just biology. What about their choices, their willingness to die for others? That is cultural, Zethor answered. Human history is full of stories about heroes who sacrifice themselves. It is in their myths, their religions, their entertainment. From childhood, they are taught that the highest honor is to die protecting others. He pulled up images from human culture. Ancient warriors, firefighters running into burning buildings, soldiers throwing themselves on grenades. They celebrate sacrifice. They build monuments to it. They tell stories about it. And so their children grow up believing that dying for others is not just acceptable, it is glorious. That is insane, a cadet muttered. Yes, Zethor agreed. By our standards it is, but it makes them what they are. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, human soldiers were training with alien troops, working together, laughing at shared jokes. I spent years afraid of humans after what I witnessed, Zethor admitted. I requested transfers away from human units. I avoided them in the halls. I had nightmares about what I had seen them do. What changed? Tilren asked. I was injured in combat, badly. My ship was hit and I was trapped in a damaged section. No one could reach me. I had maybe an hour before my air ran out. Zethor touched his chest, where scars hid under his uniform. A human engineer named Pete Jackson heard my distress call. Pete had been 3 decks away. The section between them was exposed to space. The structure was collapsing. Command ordered him to leave it, to save himself. Pete ignored the order. He put on an emergency suit and crawled through wreckage to reach me. Twice, sections collapsed behind him, cutting off his escape route. He kept coming. Zethor's voice was soft with remembered wonder. When he got to me, he gave me his suit, his air supply. He said he could hold his breath longer than I could. Zethor had refused, but Pete had already sealed the suit around him. I asked him why. Why risk his life for me? We barely knew each other. Zethor met his cadet's eyes. He said, because you are my friend. That was it. That was his entire reason. A rescue team reached them in time. Barely. Pete had been unconscious from oxygen deprivation, but he survived. That is when I understood, Zethor said. Humans are terrifying in war because they bring that same intensity to everything. They do not just fight with passion. They love with passion. They protect with passion. They befriend with passion. He turned back to face the class. You asked why humans need special protocols. Now you know. They will push themselves to death if you let them. They will sacrifice themselves for you without hesitation. They will fight your enemies with a fury that breaks every rule of civilized warfare. But they will also stand beside you when everyone else runs. They will share their last rations with you. They will give their lives so you can live, and they will call you friend and mean it with everything they are. The door to the training hall opened. A human officer walked in, wearing the uniform of the Coalition Training Command. He was older, maybe 50, with gray hair and calm eyes. Colonel Tyler Manning, Zethor's counterpart in human training operations. Sorry to interrupt, Tyler said. I heard you were giving the talk today. Zethor nodded. These cadets need to understand. Tyler looked at the young faces staring at him. I hope he scared you a bit. He should. We know what we are. We know what we become in war. He walked to the front of the room. Everything Commander Zethor told you is true. We are dangerous. We do not quit. We do not surrender easily. We will do terrible things if pushed far enough. Tyler's expression softened. But here is what you also need to know. We try very hard to be good friends in peace. We value kindness. We celebrate mercy. We work every day to be better than our worst instincts. When we call someone friend, we mean it forever, Tyler continued. When we say we have your back, we will die to prove it. When we make a promise, we keep it. That is human too. He looked at Zethor. The commander and I have served together for 10 years now. I trust him with my life. More than that, I trust him with the lives of my soldiers. And he trusts me with his. Zethor nodded. Because I learned that humans are not monsters. They are just different. And that difference can be frightening, but it can also be wonderful. Tyler addressed the cadets directly. You will serve with humans. Some of you might command them. Others will fight beside them. And when that day comes, remember what you heard today. Remember that we will never quit on you, that we will share our last meal with you, that we will stand between you and death without hesitation. Tyler's voice was firm. But also remember that we expect the same from you, not the dying part. We do not ask you to sacrifice like we do, but we ask that you stand, that you try, that when things get hard, you do not give up on us. Zethor stepped forward. I am going to tell you 3 things about humans. Write them down. Remember them. They might save your life one day. The cadets pulled out data pads. First, humans do not fight like us because they evolved differently. They are persistent predators who never give up. Do not expect them to surrender or retreat like we would. It is not in their nature. Second, humans do not fear death the way we do. They have survived every extinction attempt their planet made. They carry that confidence into battle. They believe they can survive anything, and often they do. Third, humans will die for you, but they expect you to stand with them when it matters. Do not ask them to sacrifice while you hide. They will lose all respect for you. He looked at Tyler. Anything to add, Colonel? Tyler smiled. Just one thing. We know we are scary. We know our history is violent and our capacity for warfare is disturbing. But we are trying to be better. We joined the coalition because we want to be part of something peaceful. Something good. So judge us by what we do now, not what we did in the past. Judge us by how we treat our friends, not how we fight our enemies. Tyler's smile grew wider. And maybe give us a chance before you decide we are monsters. The cadets sat in silence, processing everything. Tilren stood up. Thank you, Commander, Colonel. I understand now. Humans are different, but different does not mean wrong. Exactly, Zethor said. Tyler pulled out a small bottle from his jacket. Alcohol, human style. He handed it to Zethor. For later, Tyler said, when the memories get loud. Zethor took it gratefully. They understood each other. Veterans always did. As the cadets filed out, talking quietly among themselves, Tyler stood beside Zethor at the window. They watched mixed species units training together outside. You give that speech every year, Tyler said. Does it get easier? No, Zethor admitted. The memories stay sharp. Yeah, Tyler agreed. They do. They stood in comfortable silence, 2 old soldiers watching the next generation learn. Outside, human and alien troops ran drills together, laughing, helping each other, building the bonds that would hold when everything went wrong. And Zethor thought about what he had told his cadets, that humans were terrifying in war, that their capacity for violence was bone-chilling, that they would do things that haunted your dreams. All true. But he also thought about Pete Jackson giving up his air. About the human medic who shared her supplies, about the countless small kindnesses he had witnessed over 20 years of service. Humans were terrifying, but they were also the best friends you could have, and in the end, That was the real lesson. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity in war, but they had also learned something more important. When humans called you friend, they meant it with the same intensity they brought to everything else. Forever.